An Easy Way to Become a Saint by Father Paul O'Sullivan. Chapter 1. Two kinds of saints. There are saints and saints. Some we may call extraordinary saints, and some ordinary saints. Extraordinary saints are raised up by God for some extraordinary mission, and to this God gives extraordinary means to carry out that mission. Such were, for instance, Saint Dominic, Saint Francis of Assisi, Saint Ignatius Loyola, and a host of others. Saint Dominic was raised up by God to defend the Church against the Albigensian heretics, who taught the vilest doctrines and perpetrated the most hideous crimes. Kings sent armies against them. The Pope sent holy men to check them, but all in vain. God then raised up Saint Dominic, who, by the holiness of his life and his earnest preaching, converted 100,000 of these hardened sinners in a remarkably short time. Notwithstanding his austere life and incessant labors, there was no one more joyful, more lovable than Saint Dominic. He was sad only when he heard of the sorrows of others, or of offenses committed against his dear Lord. The saint founded 3 religious orders, which have given to the Church notable saints, missionaries, martyrs, bishops, and popes. What especially endears him to us is the fact that it was he who gave us the Rosary, which God's Holy Mother had given to him. Who has not heard of the seraphic Saint Francis of Assisi, so famous for his profound humility, his extreme poverty, and his burning love of God? As a reward of which he received on his hand and feet and in his side the sacred stigmata, the marks of Christ's 5 wounds. He too founded 3 religious orders, which have given many and great saints to the Church. People such as Saint Bonaventure, Saint Anthony of Padua, Saint Clare, and many others. Saints who shine as bright stars in the firmament of heaven. Saint Ignatius of Loyola is another example of an extraordinary saint. He began life as a soldier in the army of Spain, but God called him to be a great soldier of Holy Church. To him was given the mission to battle against the reformers, as to Saint Dominic had been given the task of converting the Albigenses. His glorious order, the Society of Jesus, has done and is ever doing a mighty work for the glory of God and for the welfare of the world at large. His sons are ever in the vanguard of the battle, fighting valiantly against the enemies of Christ. Now these extraordinary saints, inspired by God, use extraordinary means to achieve their great ends. They labor incessantly, spent long hours in prayer, fasted rigorously, and did severe penance. God favored them with supernatural visions and revelations and gave them the power of working miracles. Ordinary Christians are not called upon to do such mighty deeds, nor are they asked or advised to imitate the long prayers, the rigorous fast of these extraordinary saints. Ordinary saints. There is, however, a second class of saints, ordinary saints. Bear in mind that these saints are no less saints than the others. There are true saints and have reached exalted heights of sanctity, though in a different way. They lead humble, simple lives, performing their daily duties well and using the ordinary but abundant means of sanctity given by God to all Christians. These means we too can use, and by them we can attain a high degree of holiness. Here is a good example of the ordinary saint. The Two Ladies. The great Saint Anthony the Abbot, who had spent long years in the desert, passing whole nights in prayer and performing severe penances, aware of how important the virtue of humility is in the spiritual life, asked God to make him profoundly humble. In answer to his prayer, the Almighty directed him to visit two ladies in the neighboring city, who, though simple and unpretentious in their manner of life, were, so God told Anthony, holier than he who had spent long years in the practice of rigorous penance and unceasing prayer. On entering their home, the saints sought to discover the secret of such remarkable holiness. He asked them many questions as to the fast they made, the length of their prayers, their austerities, and the like, so that he might imitate them. He was not a little surprised to learn that they did nothing exceptional. They observed the fast of the church, they said their prayers devoutly, they gave what little alms they could afford, they frequented the sacraments, heard daily mass, and practiced the ordinary Christian virtues. What impressed the saint most was that they loved God very simply, but very sincerely. God was the great reality in their lives. They did all their actions for love of Him. They performed their daily duties, seeing God in all they did. They accepted what happened to them, joys as well as sorrows, as coming directly from His hand. That was all, but it sufficed to explain to the saint the secret of their wonderful sanctity. They performed their duties well and they loved God. There are thousands of such hidden, ordinary saints in the church now, as there have been at all times. Saint Therese of Lisieux. We have a striking example in our own days of a canonized saint who was actually given to us as an example of how to become holy. By what she herself tells us is the easy, the little way to heaven. Saint Therese of Lisieux never worked a miracle, never enjoyed heavenly visions, never did anything extraordinary. But she did well all that she did. She tells us that she went to heaven in an elevator. In the Carmelite convent in which she lived, none of the sisters remarked anything wonderful in her conduct. She was sweet and joyful, and was the sunshine of the community. Possibly some of the other sisters prayed longer and did more rigorous penances than she did. An incident which took place before her death shows how simple and unpretentious was her life. It was the custom in the convent for the prioress to write a short account of the life of each sister after that sister's death. During the illness of Saint Therese, two sisters were heard speaking of this. One said to the other, "Poor Mother Prioress, whatever will she find to write about poor little Sister Therese?" Yet this dear little saint began to work so many wonders after her death, and obtained so many favors for those who had recourse to her, that the whole world rang with her praises. She was solemnly canonized after a remarkably short time. What a consolation she offers to those who wish to be holy. Hers was the little, the easy way, the elevator, by which we too, no matter how weak we are, can go to heaven. Benigna consolata, A second example that will encourage the humbles of us is the history of Benigna Consolata. Her life, her conduct were so ordinary that those who were most intimate with her had not the faintest idea that she was a saint. She did not spend her nights in prayer, nor did she fast more rigorously than the others. She never worked miracles, yet her pure, humble life attracted the love of our Lord, who frequently appeared to her and treated her with the most loving intimacy. When speaking to her, he addressed her by her pet name, Nina Mia. Her name was Benigna Filomena Consolata. He revealed to her the most consoling doctrines and said to her, "My dear little secretary, write all I tell you, that others may know it." The sisters who lived with her were utterly surprised when they learned after her death of her wonderful sanctity. We ourselves may be surprised when we enter heaven to see on high thrones those whom we knew on earth, but whose sanctity we did not suspect. The children of Fatima. What happened more recently at Our Lady's Sanctuary in Fatima will serve as another lesson on how to reach great holiness by simple means. The angel guardian of Portugal came to prepare the 3 chosen children who were later on destined to see our Blessed Lady. 3 things the angel bade them do: to pray devoutly, to hate sin, and to offer to God with patience the sufferings the Almighty will be pleased to send them. This for His greater glory, and for the salvation of souls. God's Holy Mother herself, when she came, taught them the same lessons, which enabled these poor, ignorant little children to become worthy of their glorious mission. Can we not do what 3 poor, unlettered children did? We ourselves, from time to time, meet with simple souls whose extraordinary virtue is made evident by a single act. A dear old woman run over by a carriage in Dublin and horribly crushed was rushed to a hospital. One of the mercy nuns who became her nurse tried with infinite delicacy to comfort and console her. What was not the nun's surprise when the patient opened her eyes and said, "Sister dear, are you telling me to be resigned to God's holy will? Let me tell you that God's holy will has been always to me as welcome as the fruit to the tree." Poor with many sorrows and needs during her long life, she now, in the throes of agony, manifested her perfect union with the will of God. Monsignor Robert Benson, the convert son of the Protestant Archbishop of Canterbury, while still a priest, went for a short visit to Catholic Ireland, of which he had heard so much. At his request, a friend took him to visit some of the poor sick in the little homes. He saw what he called wonders. These dear sufferers amazed the young convert by their faith, patience, and perfect resignation to the will of God. One old man was suffering from an awful cancer, already in an advanced stage, which was eating away his breast. Father Benson, full of compassion, tried to say some words to comfort him. "Oh my, Father, it's nothing," replied the old man. "Sure, in a few days I will be with God in heaven. Didn't He suffer much more for me?" On his return to England, Father Benson wrote a touching article on the heroic patience and faith of these poor people. "They seem to see God," he said. Owing to political troubles, An unfortunate man slew his enemy, a crown official, denounced by a perfidious friend of his own. He was arrested and condemned to death. He repented sincerely of his crime, but could not pardon his base accuser. The chaplain of the prison used his utmost efforts to induce him to go to confession. "This I cannot do," he said, "because, though sorry for my crime, I cannot pardon my false friend. Thus my confession will be bad." A good sister of mercy won his heart by her infinite kindness and delicacy. She too tried to induce him to confess. In vain. On the eve of his execution, she made a last supreme effort. "Do you know who I am?" she asked him. "Yes, sister, you are an angel from heaven." "No, I am no angel from heaven, but I am the sister of the man whom you killed. I have pardoned you. I have fasted and prayed and done all I could to save your soul." Amazed, the poor man fell on his knees and, in a flood of tears, kissed her feet. "Yes, yes, angel of God, for you are, indeed, an angel. I forgive with all my heart my enemy. Oh, forgive me, you." Hers, indeed, was heroic forgiveness. A single act, as we have said, reveals at times heroic sanctity. The widow's alms won our Lord's high approbation. "She has given more," he said, "than all the rest." She had given only a mite, but she gave it with all her heart. The good thief's plea for mercy on the cross obtained plenary pardon for all of his crimes. The publican's short prayer, "O God, have mercy on me, a sinner," made his soul as white as snow. This will be all for today's chapter. We hope you liked it and you stay with us for the next upcoming chapter. Thank you and God bless.
Ruah.